What did we do today? We took tree carcass, turned it into fuel. Hey YouTube, what are we doing today? Well, as promised, we are going to run Charcoal Charlie. We're going to run some fuel through it. The reason I'm doing this is actually kind of an update video because one of the most popular videos that I have on my channel is where I build Charcoal Charlie. And I get constant comments on the on that video, and I know this probably won't do any good because what will happen is people will still go to that video, they'll never see this one, and they'll still leave the same comments. But I'm going to try and talk about some of the changes that's happened to Charcoal Charlie, some of the things that just haven't been an issue since the day I put it into service. The truth is I haven't run Charcoal Charlie in probably a year or more. There's many reasons for it, but not the least of which, living in the southern San Joaquin Valley, we're under the control of an clean air district, so there's a lot of forbidden days, a lot of days where we're not allowed to burn anything. But let's take a look at this. Oh, all right, let's deal with the first issue. When I first built Charcoal Charlie, I had put a check valve in here. I plumbed it so that the gases would come out of the top of the kiln chamber, and it would come through this 3/4 inch pipe and down and then back in, and I had a burner inside the firebox. And I even had a check valve here, and the idea was I didn't want any oxygen. When this thing started to cool down, I didn't want anything to come back into it. Well, it's not an issue. So one of the first things I did was I got rid of the check valve because, well, along with the rest of the tubing here, the rest of this pipe, it would plug up with creosote and other hydrocarbons that hadn't burned off. But the reason I had run, a lot of people are saying, oh, well, you should have put the pipes on the inside and that kind of stuff, and then I wouldn't have it. But the problem is, or the reasoning behind this originally was I put the plumbing on the outside because I thought maybe I might experiment with pulling wood gases off, or I may end up wanting to run it off and, like distill it and get some sort of different ideas. But none of that really ever interested me after I built it. And as it sits now, this is actually abandoned. And I'm going to show you probably the most significant change to Charcoal Charlie that has affected his efficiency more than anything. All right, so I've turned Charcoal Charlie around here so we can see in there, get some sunlight in here. What I've done is we've abandoned that burner, and I drilled, get this out of the way. I drilled 4 half-inch holes along the length of the upper chamber directly into the firebox. And what we'll see when we start burning here in a few minutes is that the flames now, the gas is actually injected straight down and they ignite better. That was another problem I had when I had the original burner design in here. So it just works a lot better that way. To keep things from plugging off, to keep material from plugging off those holes, I simply laid a piece of angle iron over them. So yeah, that is probably the single best improvement I've made to Charcoal Charlie right there. Now I want to talk about one of the biggest mistakes I've made with Charcoal Charlie. The firebox itself may be too small, and I'm not sure if it's too small or if I just don't have enough draft around the firebox, the upper box. When I originally built it, it only has a 1-inch gap between the outer shell here and then the firebox itself. And then I baffled it so that it was, my thought behind it was to keep the gases to kind of dwell around the chamber as long as possible. The problem is that you have to leave the door open so that it can exhaust out. It just doesn't work as well as it should. And if I get a wild hair, I actually have thought about rebuilding it and making a new one. But as it is right now, this is what we've got. And that's basically the most I can say about Charcoal Charlie. And what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to get a charge of wood for the to convert, get us a charge of wood for the firebox, and we're going to light it up. And in about 2 or 3 hours, we'll have some fresh charcoal. So let's get started. All right, we got this all filled in. It's not maybe as tight as I could get it, but kind of running out of materials to feed this thing. I've got some cherry and some almond and some random trimmings off of whatever was around the yard from something. I don't even know what they are. We've got some little bits of lumber, tags still on it. Doesn't matter, it burns up, who cares? I'm not eating this stuff. We're not putting it in the ground, we're just going to burn it again. It works best for the forge if you have hardwood. So like the cherry will work great, the pine not so great, but I've got a burn going, so a lot of times I'll have a little scrap lumber that I kind of use to pack in there, because it's one of those things where something is better than nothing. I'm going to go ahead and get the lid on this, snug it up, and build a fire, and get this thing going. All right, we got a burn started. I'm just going to leave the door fully open. I've got the time lapse on it. We're going to see how this goes. But yeah, I'll probably have to put some fuel in it maybe a couple times. Right now, mostly it's just kindling. It's really thin stuff to get that to get it started and going. But yeah, we're going to have some charcoal in a little bit. So we're only a couple minutes into this burn, and I wanted to show you our temperature gauge here. We will start getting pyrolysis right around 600 degrees, 550, 600 degrees. We're only a couple minutes into it. It's already 100 degrees inside the chamber, so it's coming up quick. We get quite a bit of smoke in the beginning. That's pretty typical. And once this thing starts to really working, I actually may reconsider closing the door. It actually drafts. It does actually work better and more efficiently when the door is slightly closed. So we may not get a time lapse quite like what I wanted. So anyway, yeah, it's been a while since I've run this. So kind of trying to remember all the idiosyncrasies of it. But yeah, there it is. All right, we've just hit 500 degrees inside the box, and I don't know if you can hear it or not. You're just now starting to get some gases coming out of the chamber into the firebox. So in a few minutes, as that keeps going up and up and up, we'll get more and more gasification, more pyrolysis or whatever it's called, and it'll continue to blow more and more of that wood gas into the firebox, and it just keeps getting hotter and hotter. We may hit, and I have hit pretty close to 700 degrees inside that box, but according to that barbecue temperature gauge, which its accuracy is decidedly questionable. But we are, well, just sitting here talking here, we're already over 500. Looks like we're about 510. So yeah, we're gonna let it keep burning, and it's making charcoal. So much sunlight out here, I don't know if you can see that, but we are at 600 degrees now. We are at full generation. This thing is making wood gas and providing its own fuel. You can see, look in there, there's still a lot of firewood left in the box. It's really hard for me to see the screen. I don't know what I'm pointing at, but anyway, yeah, there's still a lot of firewood left in the box. That just means I put too much in it. So, yeah, that's a typical burn with Charcoal Charlie as it sets right now. When it really starts generating, the smoke pretty much disappears. We just get a little bit. Every once in a while, it'll kick up another cloud for whatever reason. But yeah, there we go. That's what happens when you get to about 600. There he is, right there, about 600 degrees. And it'll climb a little bit more before we're done. All right, in just a few minutes, it went ahead and shot over the 650. It's about 660 right now. We still have a lot of gases coming out of the chamber and into the firebox. Whew, there's a lot of fuel in that. I think what we're going to do is we're just going to let it go ahead and burn out. We know it's going to completely pyrolysize because of the amount of fuel I'm getting out of it, and I've hit those temperatures at 650. I can almost guarantee I've never had anything not get completely cooked once it hit that kind of temperature. So I'm just going to go ahead and let this thing finish, and we'll know that it's about done when the flames coming out of the bottom of the kiln, out of the upper chamber, when that gas starts to slow down, we'll know we're near the end of our burn. So yeah, I'm just going to let this thing finish up, and then I'll pick up when it's done. Just like that. If you listen real careful. Yep, still cooling off in there. That's it. That's the current iteration of Charcoal Charlie, and you can see creates a really nice really nice charcoal, nice product. The dense hardwoods work better for the forge. The pines, not so great. You know, the softwoods, not so great. But it still makes a neat product. I still like it. And if I had a better source of material, I'd probably still feed it. Some changes I've considered. I do have a design that I've sketched out multiple variations. I've even thought about building one out of a rocket stove. I've sketched one out to make use of the We get a lot of sunlight and a lot of heat during the summer here, and I've even thought about building them out of, making a parabolic reflector that collects the heat. But I have a feeling I'd end up being stuck to smaller batches. I've thought about air injection into the firebox to help with the starvation and get the draft and stuff, but the problem with that is, you pump air into a fire like that and you end up melting your steel, because that's what we're doing with the charcoal. So anyway, I wanted to bring an update on the Charcoal Charlie. Hopefully those of you that have found me this way and stuff, maybe it'll answer some of the questions about what I've done to it over the years and what works, what hasn't worked, and the fact that I'd like to build another one. But yeah, that's it. So until next time, bye. Higher, higher, burning fire, making music like a choir.